What is up, everybody? We're back here for the NFL Week 15 playoff picture breakdown and predictions as we get into it here. Starting out with the NFC playoff picture, I'm going to be analyzing that, going through all the scenarios, then going to be analyzing the AFC playoff picture, and then going through the NFL playoff machine courtesy of ESPN.com, then plugging in all of my predictions for the final 4 weeks of the season and seeing the results that we get there. So without further ado, let's get into it. And we had a massive change atop this conference as the 49ers on their 5-game win streak beat Seattle this last week and hop up to the number 1 seed at 10-3. They obviously have some key head-to-head tiebreakers here over Dallas, who they beat in that Week 5 Sunday night game, and then the Eagles, who they beat in Week 13 there in Philadelphia. And obviously Philadelphia lost this past week to Dallas in that Sunday night game, so Dallas takes the division lead for now at 10-3. Although, as you probably heard on the broadcast, the Cowboys do not control their own path. If the Eagles win out, then they will claim the NFC East crown because of the way that the tiebreakers work. Currently, Dallas has the better divisional record because they've played more games within the division, but by the end of the season, that will equal out, and the Eagles will have the better conference record. So that race will be interesting there, but Eagles' 2 straight losses now has them at the wild card for the time being. And then at the 3 line, you have Detroit at 9-4, and at one point in the season, when this team was picking up steam, it looked like they could be making a race for the 1 seed. You thought maybe in Ford Field, in the controlled environment, this team could be a Super Bowl contender, but no, it's really come crashing and burning for the number 1 seed hopes. They're basically looking at a 3 seed here, just looking to lock up this NFC North now, as the Lions have lost a couple of games here as of late, now at 9-4. And then you've got the Bucs at 6-7, yes, below 500, but they have won some key games in the division here and now lead the tiebreaker over the Falcons and Saints, who are also 6-7 there in NFC South. Eagles, as I mentioned, 10-3, now down to the wild card. Then you've got the Vikings at 7-6, who looked like a lock to make the playoffs with Josh Dobbs when they were playing great earlier. I believe they were 6-4, riding a 5-game winning streak. Then they lost 2 in a row, and this last week against the Raiders was an atrocious performance. They get out of Vegas with a 3-0 victory there, so did what was required in that one, and now are sitting with the second wildcard spot. And I must remind you that this wildcard graphic was made before the Monday Night Football game. The Green Bay Packers obviously lost to the New York Giants, but the Packers still occupy the 7 seed based on the tiebreakers here. Although they are 6-7 there at a 5-way tie with those other teams. You see, you've got the Rams, who had won 3 straight prior to a rough loss in overtime to Baltimore, but they look like a team that's surging. Seattle going the exact opposite direction, lost 4 straight, and it is worth mentioning the Rams swept the season series over Seattle there, so they will have the tiebreaker there. And then you've got Atlanta and New Orleans. The Falcons obviously beat New Orleans at home earlier this season, so they claim that tiebreaker there. So that's the NFC. Those final 2 wildcard spots and the race for the 1 and 2 seeds, NFC East, will be very compelling there. Here we have a little bit of a graphic that conveys the race for this number 1 seed. So you see here the Eagles definitely have the easiest schedule. They are coming off of a brutal stretch. You remember the last 4 weeks where they had the Chiefs on Monday night, then the Bills. They won those 2 very close, but then these last 2 weeks against the Niners and Cowboys have been different stories there. They do go to Seattle, tough place to play on Monday night. The Seattle team will be very desperate, but then you've got the Giants twice in Arizona. I think that those will be trap games down the stretch. Giants playing very good with Tommy DeVito, and Arizona will not give in easily with Kyler Murray playing well there, surging late. Then you've got the Niners obviously playing Arizona, as I mentioned, coming off the bye there. Then you've got Baltimore in that Monday night Christmas game. That one will be spectacular. Then at Washington and the Rams there. So manageable. You could see them winning out, but also maybe getting upset in one of these games. And then Cowboys, just brutal stretch here. And they don't have the tiebreaker against the Niners or the Eagles, so this one's going to be brutal for them at Buffalo, at Miami, Detroit at home, and then at Washington. So realistically, it's very unlikely that the Cowboys get the number 1 seed, but they are playing great football at the moment, so you never know. So now let's get to the AFC playoff picture breakdown, and we saw some change at the top as the Ravens now have sole possession of the best record in the conference at 10-3 now, conference leader at the number 1 seed. And I do think that this team has a lot of flaws. They barely got over that Rams team at home. I don't think this is a dominant team by any stretch, but if they can get the 1 seed here, that will be huge for their playoff hopes. Reminder that in Week 17, they play a game against the Miami Dolphins, which will be huge for 1 seed ramifications there. Then you've got the Dolphins. That was just a horrible loss against the Titans Monday night at home there, and that slides them down to the 2 seed. And they don't have an easy schedule coming up here. You also have the Bills, who look like they could be getting into it. The Dolphins and Bills play in Week 18, so that could be a crucial matchup for the division lead there, as a lot of people prior to this week thought that the Dolphins had already secured it. Nope, that race is still up for grabs. And then you also have the Chiefs at 8-5. I mean, this team is just in a tailspin right now. Lost 2 straight, and just that offense does not look like it did in prior seasons. Still got a lot to work out there. the schedule is pretty manageable coming down the stretch here, but it is important to point out that the Broncos now are only 1 game behind in the division there. So if they aren't careful here down the stretch, they could lose this AFC West race there. And then you have the Jags, who are in real treacherous waters here at 8-5, lost 2 straight. Lawrence got injured in the Monday night game against the Bengals, then did not look great in Cleveland there. And you're in a division where the Texans, yes, CJ Stroud did get injured and they lost to the Jets, but only have a 1-game lead in that one over the Texans. And then the Colts at 7-6. Yes, they did beat the Colts twice, but this is a team that could be surging, and if the Jags aren't diligent in closing out the regular season, then they could lose this AFC South and be fighting for a wild card spot in that one. So really, all of the division leaders are in some turmoil there, except for the Ravens, who got out well. Then you've got the Browns sitting there at 8-5. Sole possession of that number 1 wildcard spot, just playing great at home, and Joe Flacco looks to be leading this team well there. And then you've got quite the stack up here. This is like the 6-7 stack up in the NFC. You've got 6, 7, and 6 teams here for 2 spots, so 4 of them in the Hunt graphic. Steelers and Colts play this week, both at 7-6. We'll see who wins in that one. In the Hunt graphic, you've got the Texans, who looked like a potential sneaky dark horse contender to maybe make the Super Bowl if CJ Stroud keeps playing well, but then tough loss in New York, CJ Stroud gets concussed. Then the Broncos obviously started out 1-5, but now Russell Wilson and that defense playing great, so you never know there. Bengals had a 3-game losing streak, looked to be completely dead, but now Browning has them on a sneaky 2-game winning streak, so they're doing well there. And then the Bills, 7-6, probably the most dangerous of these teams, but just so tough for them that they lose out on all of these tiebreakers here. Some of these tiebreakers may change throughout the course of the season, but you get a good gauge of what they need here. And the Bills, very tough schedule coming up, so they might have to win out. Maybe they can get in with 1 loss here. And then you've got the Chargers and Raiders. These teams are all but dead there at 5-8. So very compelling race as well in the AFC for the wildcard spots there. So with that, let's get into my predictions. And here are the Week 15 predictions. Not going to go into detail on these. If you want to get my reasoning behind this week's predictions, check out my picks and predictions for Week 15 and betting locks as well. I will have that in the top right for you guys all to view there. But some general recap here of what happens in the playoff picture. The Ravens slide down to the 2 seed. I have them losing that Sunday night game to the Jags. So Miami, I have them winning against the Jets at home, 10-4, slide up to the 1 seed. Ravens go down to the 2. Chiefs win in New England, but still stay at the 3 seed, and the Jags still stay at the 4 seed. The Steelers beating the Colts in Indianapolis there, go up to the 5 seed, and the Browns drop to the 6 seed with a home loss to the Bears. And then I've got the Bengals beating Minnesota at home there, so they go up to the 7 seed. And some other notable results in the AFC, I have the Titans beating the Texans at home and the Bills beating the Cowboys, but again, they're still not in that playoff picture because they lose out on so many tiebreakers here. Then we slide over to the NFC here, where I have the Niners at 11-3. They get that win in Arizona there. I have the Eagles winning in Seattle, so they take back the NFC East lead with that Cowboys loss to the Bills. Then I have the Lions winning 10-4, 3 seed there. And then the Bucs getting a little bit of an upset victory in Green Bay there, and they retain their NFC South lead. You've got the Cowboys at 10-4 in the wild card, as I mentioned. The Vikings, even in spite of that loss, still at the 6th seed, and then the Rams slide up to the 7th seed with their home win against the Commanders and the Packers loss. So now let's go to Week 16, where we see yet more change atop the AFC. I've got the Chiefs winning at home against the Raiders, and they slide up to the 1 seed. The Dolphins go down. They lose at home to the Cowboys there, 10-5. The Jags go up to the 3 seed with a win in Tampa, and the Ravens lose once again on Monday night to the Niners on Christmas there, so they slide all the way down to the 4 seed. Quite a fall from grace that would be for them. Then I have the Bengals winning in Pittsburgh there, getting their revenge, go to 9-6 to the 5th seed, and the Buffalo Bills now in the playoffs at the 6th seed with a win in LA against the Chargers. And then I have the Texans coming back to the playoffs with a big win at home against the Cleveland Browns. There, now we get to the NFC, where I have the Niners at 12-3, obviously with that win against the Ravens. Then the Eagles, I have them winning against the Giants as well, so they hold on to that NFC East lead. Then the Lions, I have them losing at the Vikings, tough place to play there, divisional battle, but still hold on to the division lead. And then the Bucs, I have them losing, as I mentioned, the Jags, but still hold on to the NFC South lead there. And then the wild card stays the exact same as the prior week with the Cowboys, Vikings, and Rams there. Now we go to Week 17, where it stays the same at the top as the Chiefs. Hold on to the 1 seed with their win against the Bengals at home. The Jags beat the Panthers at home, go up to the 2 seed. The Ravens at the 3 seed with the get-right game against the Dolphins, who now have slipped down to the wild card at the 5th seed as the Bills beat the Patriots. So in my prediction, this is shocking as the Bills take the lead over the Dolphins, but I must remind you that they play for the division lead in Week 18 in Miami, so that won't really matter there. You'll see who I pick. And then you've got Houston at 9-7 with a win at home against the Titans. And then the Broncos now in the playoffs with a win at home against the LA Chargers. Then in the NFC, I've got it staying the same at the top. Niners and Eagles both win there at 13-3. I have the Lions losing again at the Cowboys 10-6. I have the Bucks getting right against the Saints at home. That will be big for their NFC South hopes there. Cowboys 12-4 with that big win against the Lions, but Eagles just haven't lost, so they haven't been able to move up. And then the Rams 9-7, I have them picking up yet another win at the Giants here, and then the Packers get back into it. That will be a huge game for this number 7 seed at the Vikings. I have them winning that game. That one will be massive for their hopes there. So without further ado, let's get into my Week 18 final playoff predictions for this week and see who I have. So it stays the same atop the AFC. Yes, I have the Chiefs getting this number 1 seed, winning out for the rest of the regular season, as I think that their schedule is pretty manageable here. Win against a reeling LA Chargers team at the end of the regular season. Then I've got the Ravens finishing up winning against Pittsburgh at home, 12-5. They win the AFC North there, secure the 2 seed. Then you've got the Dolphins winning that AFC East championship game, getting to 11-6 and a 3 seed there. I have the Jags falling to the 4 seed with an upset loss at the Titans there against a frisky Tennessee team. Then I've got the Broncos going all the way up to the 5th seed with a win in Vegas against the Raiders. And then the Browns win in Cincinnati. That game will be for a playoff spot, but I just think this Browns team matches up very well, even though it's in Cincinnati. Give me the Browns to beat the Bengals. And then the Bills, although they lose to the Dolphins, they are able to secure the 7th seed there. That Texans-Colts game could potentially be intriguing, but it just didn't matter because of some of my other predictions there. So stay tuned on that one for later weeks. Then we get to the NFC side where we've got the Niners and the Rams. The Niners win this game at home, secure the number 1 seed at 14-3, but the Rams do make it at the 7th seed at 9-8 there. Then you've got the Eagles. Big game here at the Giants. We'll see how the Giants are looking at the time of this game, because if they lose that game at the Giants, then they would end up losing the division if the Cowboys beat the Commanders like I predicted them to, but I have Philadelphia winning this one there, so getting the 14-3 and the 2 seed. Then the Lions, I've got them finishing at 11-6, beating the Vikings at home, knocking the Vikings out of the playoffs for good there. Then the Bucks, I have them winning at Panthers, finishing 9-8 atop the NFC South, and they do end up having a winning record. Then Cowboys, as I mentioned, 13-4, but just get boxed out by the Eagles. Packers, I have them winning at home, finishing 9-8 there, and then the Rams, as I mentioned, 9-8 as well. So that concludes all of my predictions for the final month of the regular season. Let me know what you guys think of the current playoff picture, my analysis, and my predictions here for the final 4 weeks. As always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.